not a good question. Now I get some really good questions, but every now and then I get a question that actually interests me a little bit in explaining it to you guys. And the question was this: that spout, they wanted to know if there's wear plates in it, or how does that work when the wood goes through it? It's a good question. I'll shut it off so you can hear a little better and we'll explain it. Look at that. Oh, those are dandy. The wood starts out at that end, and it's got to come through all these chains in here, gets all cleaned off. Then when it hits that chipper disc, it all comes out that spout. This thing's like over 50 foot long, okay? So you have like 30 foot, maybe a little more, before the wood actually hits the knives. And once it hits the knives, it all blows out that spout. Now I did a video a week ago, 2 weeks ago. This thing will throw it 100 foot easy. Our chip vans we got two 53 footers and the rest are 50 footers, and one 53 footer getting built right now. But that's how tight it packs those in the back of that van. It packs those chips tight in the back of that van because it can throw them over 100 feet. But we're only putting them at 53 feet. So you get some questions about how does that wear with all of that wood going through there. And the interesting thing is that wood wears out that steel quick. It blows my mind. Whether it's chains, I mean, we're replacing chains every other day in this thing that look like this. Okay, it wears those out in 2 days. We've already changed the paddles on this disc, and I'll show you those because that's kind of what goes. The paddles are what throw it out through the spout. But if you think of this spout, it's not that big. Is it a foot wide? It's probably a foot wide. It's not that big. Okay, so all your wood's blasting out through here. Let's say it's a foot wide. This will take a 27. I know I can get a bigger than a 27-inch tree through here. It's got a 30-inch disc in it. So if you think of a 27, 28-inch round tree blasting through this thing at over 100 feet per minute, if you look up there, the tabs, see how one's broke off? I busted both those off on a job because there's so much wood going through that spout that it'll bust the steel right off that thing. Because if you think of a 27-inch tree going through that chipper disc, you're putting a log through that thing, through that spout. I mean, a big log, however long you want it, an 8-foot log, in a couple seconds. I mean, just a few seconds, you're blasting an 8-foot log through that thing, through that spout. So you have to think there's got to be some wear, and there is some serious wear. So I will show you how this works, and maybe you'll understand just a little bit better of what goes on in the chipper disc and how it gets to that point, and if there's any wear, and I'll unfold. I just put these knives in 2 loads ago, and look at that. Edge is gone off them already. I'm going to have to replace those before tonight. So your wood comes all the way through this thing, and it hits this, and it's got an anvil strip down there on the bottom side that the knives rub up against that cut the tree off. So your wood comes in here, right? It'll cut a big round plate, 7/8 of an inch is what you got through right here. Okay, it's making a 7/8 chip. That knife cuts it. Then it hits this piece here. That's called your counter knife. That piece right there is what actually breaks that round plate into chips. Then it hits the next piece back there. This piece here. That's your knife holder. Okay? That bolts to the actual chipper disc. Once it slips through there, then it hits what we call, maybe everybody else calls them different, we call this a paddle. This paddle is what throws it. It goes through this disc, up into this paddle, and then that paddle throws it out into the spout. Okay, so you have, it's a 3-disc chipper. We got 3 discs. But if you look, for instance, right here, I hope you can see that. See that wear right here in that steel? We've already replaced these. This has got about 6,000 hours on it. We've already replaced these once. It'll wear that right out and bust this all loose. These are all, these were put on last summer, yeah. So it hasn't even been a year yet, and you can see that hole, that dish right there, from the wood chips wearing that steel out. Okay? And that paddle throws them right out this side, and that's right in line with your spout. So let's look at that spout, and I'll explain to you some of the work I've already done to it, because it wears out too. Okay, so what I did was I had to put the pin back in the hood, because to fold that up, there's a cylinder that runs between the hood and the spout. And if you take the pin out, the hood opens up so you can change your knives. And if you put your pin back in, it'll lift the spout up to fold it for transport going down the road. But this is what we got here. Oh, goodness. Let's get up here. That was my head on the panel, but I'm all good. Okay, here's a look at it. How that paddle's throwing that wood right out of here, right? And it runs right up into this spout. And you can see right here, right there, that's already wore a hole through, right there. And we've had to, I welded that piece of steel on there, as you can tell. That's high quality. It's bad, but it held, and there's no chips blowing against this anymore. It wore that hole right through there, and if you look up through there, you can see, like right here, it just wears that right smooth. I mean, this is smoother than ever in here. You got a lot of wear coming right here. Be right in this corner. All the chips are flying through this way. The wood's pushing through that disc. So they're wearing right through right here. Is a big wear spot. So you can see actually how this is wore out right here. That corner's wore out. There's a lot of wood hitting that. But that is about as smooth as silk going up there because of how much wood's getting pushed through there. Okay. So you got all that wood coming through here, and it all goes up against this here. And I set this up so I can turn this like this, and then it's got the deflect right here that goes out to deflect it more. But you look in there, and you can just see how that is just so shiny. It does a lot of wear on that steel, especially right here and on that deflect. There's a lot of wear in that spout. So hopefully, you're a little dirty there. Too much dust around this thing. Too much dust around these chippers. That's what's going on with the spout. Hopefully that explains a little bit. It takes a lot of abuse, that wood does, against that steel. And I didn't show you the wear plate on the chipper disc. That's got a wear plate on the front of that chipper disc. I don't know why I didn't show you that. I'll have to do it in other videos. That's got a plate on it so that you can take that off and put new ones on it so you aren't wearing out the actual chipper disc. You don't want to buy those. So you buy those 3 pieces and then they bolt on there. Not perfectly. You got to have them machined because they got to be just so perfect. But that's the wear that wood will put on steel. I know some people were amazed when I talked about it before of wood that'll eat up steel. It doesn't. And when you're putting that much volume through that spout, if I had to guess, we've put, boy, if my math's correct, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong and below, have we put 200,000 tons through this machine? 4 years at roughly 50,000 tons a year. We did a lot more. We've done more than 50, so there might be more than 200,000 tons of chips through that spout already. We always talk about, me and Mike do, if you could see the stack of wood or chips or the forest that would end up going through these machines in their lifetime, it'd be pretty sweet. Because let me tell you, you put a lot of wood through these things. Again, we've been running it for 4 years now, and so yeah, 200,000 tons of chips through this thing. That's a lot. That's a lot of wood chips. And that one right there is a perfect one. I mean, don't get much better than that. So, anyways, hope that answered your spout question. And thanks so much for watching, everybody.